Good evening to you, Mr. Protecting.
Good evening, neighbor Harry, listeners, viewers.
Yes, sir. You've been listening
Go
in.
back to national conversations, Protecting.
Yes, neighbor.
Yes, sir. Let me hear what you have to say. I'm sure that you've been listening in. How you see this?
Yeah, I was listening to Harry, and Harry raised some very pertinent points. You see, this is so big and it is so deep that the efforts I see being undertaken to kind of muddy the water or to draw a wool over one white sheet over the Jamaican people's eyes. I understand why they have to attempt to do that. Now, let us go right back between 1993 to about 1999, 2000 neighbor. The PNP collected around about $1.7 trillion in taxes. But yet still, they had to beg D&G to pay public sector workers for a few years. Then they had to ask Grace Kennedy for another few years to pay public sector workers. And then Ray and Nephew, them have to beg Ray and Nephew. So even cigarette company, the PNP beg to pay public sector workers. Now, while all this was happening, you suck out 1.7 trillion out of Jamaicans' pockets in taxes. None of that not spent on the country, because every project, the few projects that took place in the country, which is Highway 2000 and the Halfway Tree Transport Center, were money borrowed abroad. Now, so there was no interest to grow the economy. The only interest there was to suck what was already in the economy out of it to put in their pockets. So the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. And in the middle of all of that, PJ Patterson signed a deal with the doctors after the PNP allowed almost 200 health centers and clinics to be shut down nationwide. They signed a deal with the Medical Doctors Association to allow them to see their private patients using the government hospitals while they're at work, because them working at the public system and them still have them private practices. Also, they could use the materials bought by government to service the hospitals in their private practice. So you have periods when doctors are go home or are left work. Them are come out with too much bag, or them have the staff I push too much bag in a wheelchair come out. Some might dodge, some not to. So gloves, mask, everything you can think of. And so the entire system ran down. And in the midst of all of that, they had a special permit granted by the government at the time where them could, for their private practice, import certain equipment. While a lot of them that I know use the UE tax exempt to ship in some equipment, because the tax exempt that UE has and the waivers that UE has, some of them are special. No other entity locally don't have it. And that has been established in law since about 1958, 1959, when Buster was premier. No, when 1949, somewhere there, to about 1953, when Buster was premier. Now, we have a situation now, I heard Harry mention it earlier, where Jack Dennis Garden, sued the Southeast Regional Health Authority. You know why I'm sued them, neighbor? Because other players are now in the market for janitorial services and porter services and all them services in a hospital. So the region now split up the contract and is allowing somebody else to participate Because
What you're protecting, that's the one where Jack then a group of companies lowered their bid to the lowest to get the contract. That's the one.
that's his claim. That's the
Okay.
matter in the court, and that's his claim. Because somebody else, Jack then has held a price because they were monopoly in the healthcare sector with all the services that they provided. And so them hold a price for how long. And a new entity now come on board and get, have them equipment, have them things sort out, and then now bid for a government contract. He is now claiming that he lost a contract and him have loss and damages because that's how PMP are. Them put on them pot and then on the food in them cupboard, the food over a neighbor. Them put on the pot a boil and them have a plan to go through the neighbor back door, go thief out the rice because a neighbor rice a cook. Them not no rice, them just put on a pot. And that is what we're seeing. And that's why I say what is happening in Jamaica now is a collective of many things, neighbor. And I want the people who are listening to understand. He monopolized the health services for decades. Now that the economy expand, now that him contract come to an end and somebody else bid, he's not pushed out of the system, It just happens now that there's another player providing the service. So two of them have to go operate simultaneously in the system. Him want to remain in the system by himself. Nobody else, nothing, no food. Where else do we see that? Even though we are talking about Jack then, we see it right throughout the society. The PMP are upset because a whole lot of black developers, small man, you have 25-year-old who own construction company with all equipments and a bid for multi-million-dollar government contracts now. They do not like that. And that is what you see fueled Jack then going to the court, as Harry mentioned that part of it. Now, neighbor, this thing has the potential to go far and wide. And I heard today, because I didn't watch a podcast, that he was on a podcast somewhere on TikTok mentioning a JLP member's name who is shareholder in the Jack Den group of companies. Now, Jack Den group of company are supposedly a shareholder. Jack Den group of company, I think, is a public company. It's a private company, but maybe trade publicly. And a matter of fact, with the level of operation that he has going on, you must have investors. So I don't know why this thing now, where I'm going to mention that a shareholder of the entity is a member of the JLP. I don't know what that means. Because he's a crook, he has been his company has been involved in nefarious activities. And he must be brought to the fore to answer to them. Okay, let's say everything go through an investigation, done and everything, say, all right, there's nothing untoward here. Whatever. Okay, we move forward. But right now, we're in the middle of a situation that needs to be explained. Now, it can't be that the bill of lading is in the University of West Indies' name. Everybody knows that you were there, Papi in. But you will address a show for the 18, I must say 3/4, 8.5 Linders Road. But also the question need to continue. Who did Mr. Garden pay the money that he claimed that he paid? Who did he pay? Because if your name not upon a document, it is the you name upon document. How come Julian Robinson is reporting to us that he went to pay Jamaica Customs money? Whose name did he pay the money in? And now it is emerging that the officer who signed off on the transaction at Jamaica Customs is not the Commissioner of Customs. It's somebody who was not assigned to you his account. So what kind of backdoor deal happened there, so? Now, the next thing is, the University of the West Indies Hospital, is not authorized by law to collect any payment for any shipment because they are not a shipping broker. So if he is to say that him carry the money to UWI, why is UWI accepting payment for taxes owed to the government as an hospital? And they are not authorized by law to take payment.
Did he say that? He brought the money to the university.
And that is one of the 4 different statements that he has given. And I want him to keep talking, go up on one of the podcast somewhere else. Because the more he speaks, is the more them getting in trouble. The point is, you're making payments. By law, you're making the payments retroactively too. But the question need to be asked, who did you pay? Because at this point, with an investigation going on, you went to the customs, as you say in one statement, to make the payment. Now, it is the Commissioner of Customs who's supposed to sign off on that certification and make sure the payment go through. Plus, you will have a special, according to the 1949 law, you will have a special recognition under the GCT Act. Only UWI Hospital have that special recognition. Why? Because when that was written in, it's because the university was seen as the training university in Jamaica. So them did have to get the special exemption so they could import equipments for the purpose of training and the continuation of healthcare.
Yeah. Okay. What I want you to do is to link this story to the People's National Party. At what point did the PNP leadership become aware of the issues raised in the Auditor General's findings involving Jack Den and the University Hospital of the West Indies tax exemptions? How do you link it to the PNP?
Them know from day one, neighbor. They know from day one. All right. Again, an audit was being carried out. I am sure that when the Auditor General and her team went to the University of the Hospital of the West Indies, somebody from within that office had to contact Jack Den or Mr. Garden to ask him to provide certain documentation to support the investigation. So from day one, he knew that his company was being looked into. So when it was uttered by him through his lawyers, that I know him and media tell lie upon him, they already knew the truth. When it was uttered by Mr. Golden at that precious press conference, that he spoke to the member and the member said him not have a clue what they are talking about, and it's only one media house carrying this thing because they were successful in shutting down the next media house. Then pull back their statement. And so when they were doing all of that, when Dr. Dawes, when the story broke, as the report reached Parliament, Dr. Dawes did about 6 parts videos to muddy the water, to cause destruction. While he was doing that, I am familiar with attempts behind closed doors to kill the entire story. So the PNP knew.
Hold on, sir. You are saying to me that the series of videos that Dr. Dawes did was an attempt to kill the story?
It was an attempt to redirect the issue to Christopher Tufton. It was an attempt to create a certain narrative and give it legs so that if and by the time the story would come to light, people would already accost Christopher Tufton, or the attempts that were being done undercover to not make the story continue in the public did not work, because when they got to one of the 3 persons who made media know, that person did not know that there were 3 or 2 other people who were who also was whistleblowing on the same matter. So what was happening is their attempt to kill the story or to redirect the administrative issues at the University of the West Indies.
Is not that quite hold on. Listen, man. There's a pillar of our democracy, sir, that is failing badly. Isn't that vulgar and deceptive then, man?
The only pillar of our democracy that is failing is the fact that the PNP have believed in the miseducation and the misdirection of its supporters, so much so that it can talk down to them and them just take it because them don't know otherwise.
No, man, I'm speaking about the fourth estate protecting Jamaica. You are saying to me that Dawes had a series of videos.
Yes.
And you are suggesting that this was all a facade, somewhat of an attempt to misdirect.
Yes. While Dawes was doing that, Dawes knew that the University Hospital of the West Indies is a specially established hospital. The government of Jamaica does not own the University of the West Indies. It is owned by regional governments. It is the headquarters, the training headquarters for the region. They know that a certain percentage of share in the University of West Indies is also held by private entities. Says a public-private partnership kind of thing. So he knew that Christopher Tufton is not the end all and be all in the whole matter. But he also knew what was happening at the University of the West Indies, Hospital of the West Indies. Remember, Dr. Dawes and his friend, Mr. Henry, went on a rampage mission, to get rid of the head of the medical staff. What's his name was again? Mr. What's his name again? Doctor whatever, because he and Christopher Tufton was close. And they couldn't afford for that to happen because they knew the underhanded activities that were happening there. So, Doctor, when I speak about these issues, neighbor, I don't speak about these issues from a position of naivety, I don't speak from a position of naivety. I speak from a position of understanding what is happening. There's nothing that Dr. Dawes worked in the system for over the past 20 odd years. What is in the system that he doesn't know? Dr. Dawes
Let me ask.
Phone and call anybody in the system. What is there happening that he doesn't know?
Let me ask you this, because the youth arms of the Jamaica Labour Party have raised the matter of Jack Den funding the People's National Party. Will the PNP, or should the PNP publicly disclose whether Jack Den or entities related to them made political donations to the party structure? Is that important to be disclosed?
In the grander scheme of things, sorry about that, neighbor. In the grander scheme of things, neighbor, I would rather for the investigations to be continued, and when
but the party is calling for that. Why?
The PNP will never. It is important that the party calls again. It's a public statement asking a question, but when you understand politics, it's a public statement shedding light on some things that people would normally know. So now the people who wouldn't think that that is possible know that Jack Den contribute to the PNP. So Dennis Garden begin at the party. Now, when the companies who contribute to the two political parties for the last election, when that list is published, we will see who and who they're on, because it has to be published. I don't know when ECG got done with it, but it has to be published. And we will see the companies who, and the company's financial statements too, will, so there are ways to know. But again, a public statement like that is just to shed light for those who are in darkness as it relates to these realities. That yes, Jack Den is one of them who spend a lot of money in the PNP. He's a very powerful figure in the party too. And so, yes, it is called for, but the PMP will not accede to that call, neighbor. We know. So it is just to shed light. And the public conversation now will have that added to the whole scheme of topics that we will discuss. That, yeah, man, the party have, this man a finance the party, so them not even going to do him not much. You know, or they are not going to say it differently.
So in a concise way, protecting, because I really want to get it, because Jack Den is not a PNP company. It's a Dennis Gordon company. Dennis Gordon is only a member of the PNP, a member of parliament. Why is the People's National Party embroiled in this scandal?
The People's National Party is embroiled in this scandal because this story existed for about 2 going 3 weeks before the leader of the opposition said anything concerning it. The first time when the report came out and questions were being asked, I think it took about 2 weeks before the press conference. Then afterwards, when other information came to light, like the naming, not new information, but like the naming of the company, I think it has been 2 weeks now, and you just get a Thursday statement from the PM. Because now, again, it is very difficult to separate a company owned by a PMP member from the PMP when you understand, especially when it's embroiled in malfeasance, when you understand how the PMP operate. For example, neighbor, this company, as I mentioned before, has held a monopoly on the healthcare services system in Jamaica, health services system in Jamaica. Jack Den have held contracts with the government for maybe almost 3 decades. From the PMP in a power, Jack Den have contract in the hospital them. So there and he now is saying to us that it's over 20 odd years that he has been using this waiver. No problem, because all other people use it too. So he has been benefiting from a system set up for the hospital illegally. If you may ask me, my view is illegally, because this man import all. When me hear the price for all the furniture, them one handful of furniture with this man import 200, almost 300,000 US. I don't want to pay no tax. No, we heard of one invoice that has been honored. What about the next invoice? We hear about the furniture, the 254,000 for the furniture. What happened to the dialysis machine them?
But I want my listeners to understand why is this linked to the PNP?
It is linked to the PMP because this is how the PMP operates. He has had these contracts from the PMP was in power, and he has been benefiting from these waivers because the PMP members who are in these government agencies are the ones who are ensuring that him benefit, not him alone, others too, but they are ensuring that him benefit from these waivers. We know we can't. A matter of fact, the regular Jamaican citizen can make the connection almost in any way they so choose. But the system is rigged. All right. Neighbor, do you know that there's a certain scenario in the public service now where PMP holds posts in the system, when they're coming up for leave or maybe retirement or whatever, they help to find somebody to fill the post. They help to recruit for the post, and usually it's another PMP that they recruit for the post. And guess what? If them don't find a PMP for the post,
don't move there, sir, because it's important that we are dissecting so that our listeners are understanding. So you are saying that this matter concerning Jack Den has been going on while the PNP was in government?
Yes. He has held the contract for a period of time. Maybe, I think it's maybe 30 or over 30 years, close to 30 or over 30.
So then the People's National Party would be aware that Jack then is using this tax exemption to bring the previous ministers of health would be aware of it.
Well, there's a report in news media that a former health minister used to be the one signing special waivers for Jack then to allow him to bring in the stuff. Now, when it's a former health ministers up to 20 years ago, you maybe talk about Horace Daly or one of them, you know? So this thing is deep, neighbor. One of the things I need us to focus on.
Fenton Ferguson was the minister of health under.
Or Fenton Ferguson, right. So it could be any one of those, Horace Daly, I think, or Fenton Ferguson. It could be any one of them.
Yes. Why is the focus not on the institutional part of this? Why is it on the politics and not on the systems of accountability at the institution?
All right. One, Mr. Gordon is a public figure. Now, Section 41 of the Constitution already tells you that if you're a parliamentarian, you're not supposed to have no government contract. And if it is found out that you have a government contract that you didn't declare upon becoming a parliamentarian, the ethics committee is supposed to refer you for a recall. Means that you have to kick out of the parliament. That's a one. So you're a public figure, so more light, more attention is being drawn to this matter. Because of that. Also, neighbor, the situation is of such where Mark Golding, for about 3 years, as a leader of the party now that this public figure is a part of, championed the cause of integrity, even wore a hat in the campaign, Integrity Boss. Now this digs to the heart, the very foundation of integrity, because there are too many questions without answers, even though some of us can draw conclusions as it relates to answers. But there are too many questions that are not being answered, and there's too many efforts of deflection in this regard. Now, with your leader of your political organization, know that you're a public figure that need to answer these questions. Is so reluctant. Mark Golding take about 2 weeks before him say nothing. And then when he did say anything, he said, oh, there's nothing illegal that was done, which we expect. No, nothing illegal was done, but while you were saying that, this man went to admit guilt by paying some money to whoever, because there's nobody legal in this matter so far to have taken the $10 million, 10.1 million. So when you put all that together, public figure, belong to a political party, and a political party that championed in the integrity situation up to the last election, then you're going to have this kind of situation now that needs to be answered to, that needs some clarification. And again, you cannot escape the reality that this is the PNP. Now, we have had some discussions before, and you have really sunk into the idea of the history cannot be ignored. So this is the PNP, and knowing the history of the PNP and the crookedness of the PNP, then this is even a deeper cause for concern, neighbor.
Yeah, but you know, protecting no leader at any stage can determine the actions of its members. It is how the leader responds when members violate or find themselves in situations like these. How would you blame Golding for this situation? How Golding becomes pivotal to this story?
As we have been discussing for quite a while now, neighbor, leadership is very important. Mr. Golding has shown us on a number of occasions that to be at the head of an organization. Leadership requires more than just making a sound or saying something for something's sake. Leadership requires a certain calculated response to issues, but also a calculated response to actions that are required. And one such action was very quickly, it was expected that the leader of the opposition would have come out, and when he did, it was expected of him to say, the investigation is going on. I will wait on the investigation to make any pronouncement, but the issue of tax evasion is a serious matter. We don't know if that is the situation yet, but we'll wait until the conclusion of the investigation to make a determination. That would have made better sense. Mr. Golding came out of the blocks at that press conference, just denying that anything wrong was done. I spoke to the member and him say, I know him thing in that, and you know, I mean, leadership requires more than that. Leadership requires you to take tough positions and tough decisions, especially in times of crisis. You think Mr. Holness the one leg of flight green because him go on party for Corona? You think Mr. Holness wanted to remove Andrew Wheatley from the ministry? He didn't want to. But as the man in charge that should be setting an example, he had to take action, and an action that would be equal.
So where did Golding fail? What action should he have taken apart from what he has already done? Or has he taken no action?
The first thing Mark Golding should have done was to tell the truth. Because I found out that he knew about this matter before that press conference. So the first action he should have taken was just to be honest. Tell the truth from day one. So that underground attempt...
hold on. That's a very serious allegation, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Golding was not truthful?
No. He stood up at the podium at the press conference and pretended as if he did not know that it was Jack then when I think it was Siobhan Campbell who asked the question, or Mairi, one of them, that he pretended as if he did not know that Jack then was a company. And what did he do? He proceeded to lambast the media. Oh, it's only one media house, only Nationwide carrying that argument. Why? Because they effectively got TVJ to withdraw their statement. So there was an effort to kill the whole thing to stop the discussion publicly. But it just didn't work. So he, number one, should have been honest. For the first time in his life,
hold on, man. Hold on. Don't go too fast. I'm not remembering. You are saying that there was a press conference and the question was asked of the leader of the opposition on this matter, and he denied it?
Yeah. Him say only one media house carry it, and him ask him member, and the member say, film thing no mix up in them thing, and he spoke to him and he knows his position, but there's an investigation, and based on the official report, because he was trying to discredit Nationwide, based on the official report release, which is only the Auditor General's report, there is nothing found in that report and the company was not named. And when I checked, Dennis Garden told him that a Fimi company in it.
You checked, sir?
Yes, man. Me always a check. Because me more in IPMP. He knew. They knew. But they thought they could kill the story.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. In terms of where we go from here as the days progress. By the way, do you agree with me that the JTA story ought not to continue to carry the headlines in Jamaica? That it is a backstory. You mentioned that and you move on. At this point, it is a mere allegation and quite a distraction. You agree with that?
I don't want to talk about no JTA, because just as the political prostitute was sent out to call Andrew name to detract from the story in the earlier stage, Mark Malava is just doing his party duty. He was sent out to change the narrative, to change the public national conversation, and I will not comment on that, distraction that. Me I talk about the bigger fish where they have to fry, where the opposition stood up in parliament in the budget debate and talking about ways to tighten tax collection and make sure said ports and all in place, while their member was robbing from the government multiples of millions of dollars. And that me want to talk about.
Yes, but hold on, protecting Jamaica. Because the party you support, they have added many layers to this, even since afternoon, in calling for giving interviews to the media, putting out press conferences and so forth. So there's a disconnect.
No, there's no disconnect. What is happening is the party that I support, the operatives who are now communicating with media, know that it's a distraction and it's a lie. And since this gentleman made an international appeal telling a lie, then all the party through its surrogates is doing is to show the liar up to the public. So that there's a place for that, because you can't just make everything just go unanswered and there's no response to something. So there's a part there. Now, we the prior so now, almost 400 people there, so listen, I don't know how much you over the back page over there. So we have to make the people hear from our standpoint the important issue of the day. The distraction should not be of such where it just suck us in. Because that was the attempt. The attempt was for us to be talking about this imaginary shelteree who was imaginarily maybe backing them fists or having some imaginary sex with the fairy godmother. Okay? And that's why I can't name nobody, because if you ever name a school and tell her upon the principal will come out and lick him down. It's a distraction. So me don't want to put them corner there.
Okay. So frame for me the story going forward, protected. We have peeled away several layers. Where do you think the story now will go, and what is going to be the political impact on the People's National Party, in your view, based on how you read it?
My view is we should be disciplined enough to ask the right questions.
Yes.
We have to maintain some discipline as those of us who are here trying to dig into this matter. What do I mean? For example, the question I've been asking, who did you pay this money to? Because you couldn't say you carry to you, because you is not so authorized by law to accept payment on behalf of customs. And you can't say you carry it to customs because the person assigned to you as account don't see you. So as some little backdoor deal. So we need to continue to ask, who did you pay this money to? Where did you pay this money? And the next question we need to continue to ask is, how are you continuing, or why is the government continuing to have this man hold a government contract when Section 41 of the Constitution say him not have none? He must not have none, and him currently have a government in court. Is he going to discontinue this case, fighting for a contract that him shouldn't have in the first place? Because one out of two things. Is either you keep your contract then, Mr. Man, and go get rich as you have been doing, or you want to be a member of parliament. It can't be two. You can't make billions off of the government a year time and we still have to pay you. A double dip in that from the taxpayers, and we not in that. These are the conversations we need to have. These are the conversations, and I will not be distracted from having this kind of conversation. Who did you pay the money? And why the government continue to give you contract? So you need to make up your mind, sir. We are going to follow the law. One next thing before you move on to the next thing, neighbor. I want us to be encouraged, though, people, listeners and viewers. I want us to be encouraged. The reason why we are having this conversation in Jamaica today is because the systems are working. There was a time in Jamaica when no system did not work. PJ Patterson, Philip Palwell, and if one little whistleblower and then can tell us almost 300 million is spent on some free light bulb, figure some free light bulb, and they end up through current Spencer under the bus. We wouldn't know about that. A lot of times, this long after the situations, we end up learning about the scandals. The system is working and we must be encouraged by this. the system is finally working, and this is what the PMP are pushing back against. They push it. No, just imagine, neighbor. You think say a Mark Golding, Dr. Daz, and Dayton Campbell alone did a fight Andrew Holness? The people who benefit from this kind of crap in the system did a fight him too. Because them know say this is going to come to an end. So here what is going to happen now, neighbor. You see, now that this come to an end, you want to bet me say, them are going to review that law and that policy. And it can't happen again. These are some of the reasons why we must be proud of ourselves. Yes, we must be proud of ourselves. The systems are working. And because the systems are working, me not care who. I could have JLP, PMP, or whichever P. You're now getting 14 million as an MP now. So you don't need fear a pinch of rice bag for leak out per grain out of the bag anymore. A time now for all of the money we go to government so that the road them can continue fix. So the systems are working nearby and I feel good about the future of Jamaica.